All right, let's try to wrap it up. We've been studying this all week long. The Tanya teachings on the eternity of the Tzadik. We believe that even when the Tzadik passes on, that his presence is still found with us and amongst us, and the Tzadik continues to live. But really, what does that mean? Tzadik dies like anybody else dies. So what does it mean that Tzadik is still here? And that's what we've been understanding. And the last thing we learned about was about the Ruach. And we said that the Ruach of the Tzadik is now more available. The Tzaddik's life is essentially entirely focused on holiness. And the Tzadik expressed himself exclusively through the trappings of the soul, which are the faith, the awe, and the love that the neshama possesses. And that usually things have to filter through the concept of nefesh. But when the nefesh is, in a sense, no longer active, so then the ruach is able to rise and express itself directly. And we talked about this idea that the ruach actually is nirsham. It makes an impact in the avir, in the atmosphere around the person. And because of this, just to finish off what we left off yesterday, hilkach nokel me'oid letalmidav, it is extremely easy, or easier, for his disciples lekabel chelkam, to receive their portion, bebechinas ruach rabam, from the spirit of the teacher, ha'atzmius, the essential spirit of the teacher, sheheim, which they are, as we've mentioned multiple times, emunasai, his organic faith in Hashem that's been nurtured and developed, yirasai, his sense of awe and reverence, v'ahavasai, and his love for Hashem, asha avad bahem as Hashem. With these, he served Hashem. It is not only the radiance which is able to, so to speak, express itself outside of the vessel. So usually the essential spirit is within the vessel, and then there's a radiance. Then there's like an energy field around it. But the essential amino acids of the neshama remain enclosed or encased within the concept of the nefesh, which is in the body. So now it doesn't happen that way anymore, because the body is laid to rest. So because the nefesh is not trapped in that small reality, if you will, in that bodily frame, so now the ruach is available and the ruach expresses itself. And the Alter Rebbe now continues to develop this idea. He says, "Lafi, this is because shebechinas ruchei ha'atzmis mis'ala be'ilui achar ilui, because his essential spirit now in the post-mortem, after the terrestrial life has come to an end, continues to go higher and yet higher. Lihikolel bechinas nishmasai, to become absorbed into the level of neshama. So we talked about nefesh. Nefesh is the part of the soul which animates and vivifies the body. And then there's the ruach. Ruach is what we would call the atmospheric reality, the aura, but that's actually connected to the nefesh. The nefesh vivifies the soul, body, gives the body life, and then there's the aura around it. And then there's the neshama. The neshama is in a higher state of consciousness. You could call that that's the eye cloud. So the neshama, the body's connected to the neshama, but most of the neshama is not, so to speak, encased or at all encased within a body. It's in the bodily reality. But what happens now with the ruach is that the ruach is able to rise from its previous standing, and it becomes absorbed into the level of the neshama, which is in what's called Gan Eden Elyon, the higher form of existence. Of higher worlds, parallel but higher worlds. And it's known shekol davar shebekedusha and inerka legamri mikol v'kol mimikayme. Here the Alter Rebbe says something very interesting. When it comes to holiness, holiness is not a passing fad. Which means that if there's something material, especially after Matan Torah, that has absorbed holiness, that has resonated with holiness, that has become a vehicle to express holiness, so it doesn't fade away. It doesn't just pass off and now it's gone. What was, and now we move on. This has how Har Sinai was. Har Sinai is not holy. Once that shofar blast ends, everybody can go there. The sheep can graze. It's not holy. It's not holy. But in the post-Matan Torah reality, a place where even a shul was remains holy for posterity. And of course, the Beis HaMikdash, the site of where our holy temple was, not only is holy because there was a Beis HaMikdash, but spiritually, we even believe the Beis HaMikdash is still in a sense there. Because holiness doesn't disappear from the place that it occupies. At least not entirely. And it doesn't leave behind madrigasi harishayna gam le'achar shenisala l'mayla mayla, even when it's become elevated into higher realities, into higher parallel worlds. B'china zu harishayna, this first initial level shenishra lamata b'gan eden atachton, which remained in the lower level of Gan Eden, b'mekayimei madrigasi harishayna, what was there initially, so that remains, continues hamispasha b'talmidav, that continues to express itself to his disciples. So Gan Eden HaTachton, the lower level of Gan Eden, as we're describing it here, is the aura. The aura around the person, that's the Gan Eden. Obviously, if you're not a Gan Eden person, then you have a different kind of aura. Right? As you say, the guy looks like hell. Okay, look at this. If you have that kind of atmosphere, right? Even the dogs pick it up. They say, this guy's toxic. They notice. They have a sensory, right? So the Tzadik, he's around him, he's living in Gan Eden. And because the Tzaddik's living in a Gan Eden state, because the tzaddik breathes different air, because he lives a different kind of life. So, when you talk about the tzaddik's reality, you have the Gan Eden HaTachton, which is imminent, which is, if you will, here. You know, like the famous story of Mendel who has to leave his desk, leave his area, stick his head out the window to tell you Mashiach did come or didn't come. But in Mendel's immediate surroundings, Mashiach is here. He lives in it's a redeemed kind of atmosphere. He breathes rarefied air. But then there's neshama, which is called in what's in a higher reality, in a higher parallel reality, which is referred to as Gan Eden Ha'elyon, a higher level of Gan Eden. So this level of Gan Eden, although the Ruach is nisala, although the Ruach is elevated into a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of reality, nonetheless, the lower state of reality that it previously occupied isn't emptied of its vivifying force. It isn't emptied of that energy that still pulsates and radiates. So even if we're not in Gan Eden Ha'elyon, if we're here in the world, which is somewhat linked or loosely connected to Gan Eden HaTachton, since the Ruach was there before, the Ruach remains over there. And because the Ruach remains over there, the Talmidim are still able to receive beneficence from the Rav, from their spiritual mentor, from the level of Ruach, even though they would not be able to receive directly from the level of Neshama. Neshama is, the energy is too lofty, it's too high, they're not able to absorb it, they can't even relate to it. Nonetheless, they're still receiving through the concept of Ruach, which remains with them. And since the Ruach is freed, they're receiving it in a more intense way. So now we have a little bit of an understanding. That's not the way we understand the food we eat and the things we touch, but we have an understanding of how the tzaddik can be in this world, even more so in a more profound way than during his lifetime. Because during his lifetime, the Ruach of the tzaddik, which left an indelible impression, only had to come through nefesh, had to come through the meeting with the tzaddik, the engagement with the tzaddik, listening to the words of the tzaddik, and so on and so forth. And the ruach was very much limited to the words that you heard, the things that you saw. But now that the nefesh is not actively animating that bodily reality, and the ruach resonates freely, so a ruach resonating freely is able, despite the fact that it's become even more potent and more profound, it's still able to express itself in the world that we live. So the tzaddik indeed is in this world more so than before. His ruach is more profound in this world. And the nefesh ultimately is your limiting force. So how do we relate to this? It's a wonderful concept. In theory, it's great, the person would say, in the abstract. But in the concrete, we're not ruach people. We're nefesh people. And can't see, can't touch, can't feel, can't hear. So what does it mean? What does it mean practically? So the Alter Rebbe says something very interesting. He says, Kol echad kefi bechinas hiskashrusei vekevase elav b'chaim. This will have everything to do with the level of relationship that had been developed prior to the tzaddik's terrestrial passing. So in other words, because the relationship, like any relationship, has its currency, the relationship was based on the face-to-face encounters, the relationship was based on the interaction with the nefesh of the tzaddik, and there remained that bond. So therefore, in accordance with whatever bond there was, b'chayav, in his terrestrial lifetime, u'b'maisei, and in his passing, that relationship remains b'ahava rabba, with great love. And here the Alter Rebbe says something very interesting about love. Because the actualization of anything spiritual only comes through great love. Love is the superhighway through which spiritual energy is able to travel. Like it says in the holy book of Zeir, the ruach, the re'usa, the liba, that the spirit of the sentiment of the heart, amshech ruach mile'ela, it draws forth or actualizes a spirit from a higher place. So in other words, when a person has an attachment to something, what does it mean? What does love mean? A person loves something. A person loves somebody. They want to be attached to it. They want to be close to it. They yearn for it. When they don't have it, they miss it. And when they do have it, there's a sense of serenity, sense of happiness, sense of contentment, because they have this thing that they love, that they wanted very much. So when you have that love, even when the actual details are no longer here in a physical sense, but the attachment still remains. Because the love is still there, the yearning is still there. It didn't go away. If you despise somebody, and you can't stand being in their presence, there are people like this. You really don't like them. So when they're not in your presence, and you don't see them, okay, that's great. Like, how do we continue this? It's perfect. People, they're not going to talk to you. Please, how can I get you to keep not talking to me? This is wonderful. Let's not don't bother me. I don't bother you. That's it. It's good. This is fine. At a certain point, the longer there's a separation, the longer there's a distance, you become ambivalent. You don't care. But what happens when that relationship is also punctuated with love? And oftentimes it happens. It's love, hate. What happens then? Then it's always there. It could be there in a painful way, but it's always going to be there. I told you many years ago, I was trying to help this lady, and she had issues with her children. Valid, not valid, I don't know, but issues. Maybe she had a lot of issues too. So I said to her at some point, why don't you just divorce your kids? She said, they're killing me. They're killing me. She says, Rabbi, they're killing me. I said, divorce them. I said, divorce your husband, divorce your kids. Give them a get. I said, I'll arrange the get for you. She says, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're making me crazy. I'm trying to help you. If I help you, you'll help me too. Then you'll leave me alone. You'll be at peace. Everything will be fine. So just give them a divorce. She says, but they're my children. I said, so you mean you still love them? Of course I love them. Okay, so then stop speaking that way. If you love them, don't say you want them to die and you want to die. Stop speaking that way. So you can't do away with that. So that love that's there, it's always going to be there. So what happens if you don't have a relationship? If the currency of the relationship is damaged? And the usual things that the relationship used to flow through aren't working anymore, what happens then? It's still there. It's still there. Only now it expresses itself. Not you don't feel the love. Now you feel the absence of the love or the pain. So love is a thing that doesn't go away. It's always there. You always keep this attachment. And the Alter Rebbe basically says that the relationship that exists between the Tzadik and between the disciples, the acolytes, the followers, those inspired, the Hasidim, it doesn't disappear as long as the love remains, as long as there's a yearning, as long as there's an attachment. So then that attachment becomes a powerful thing because it's able to elicit a spirit in response. The individual you love, you remain tethered with that love, and that love becomes the mechanism or the convention through which that relationship is able to continue to function. But the thing is, it takes tremendous toil and effort. This is not a simple thing. If a person toils and works really hard at this, like Kabel Shalosh Midas Halalo, to receive these three basic dimensions of the Tzaddik's life, of the Tzaddik's neshama, of the emunah, of his profound faith, and his deep-seated awe, and his powerful love. So if the person makes proper preparations, as our sages tell us, that if you toil, you work really hard, and then you were successful, that's believable. So the Gemara says to us that if a person says, Lo yagaiti, I didn't try, still succeeded. Al tamen, don't believe it. Person says, Yagaiti, I tried really hard, but I didn't have any success. Al tamen. Person says, Yagaiti, I worked really hard. Umatzasi, and I found, tamen, that's believable. It's a very strange statement because I know a lot of people who don't try really hard and succeed. And I know a lot of people who try really hard and don't succeed. Everybody who wants to make a living makes a living. But there's no people who don't try really, really hard to make a living, and they don't make a living. Here's the guy who wants to sell his house, trying so hard to sell his house, wants to move to Israel. It's not going. Somebody else puts a house in the market, boom. So how is that? That's mazel. Okay, so then it's not your gaiti. You have a child who works so hard trying to get a good mark in school, and Nebuch, his child, he's not blessed with that kind of mind. It doesn't work for him. He's clocking in at 70. 72 is the best mark he ever got. That doesn't understand. He works so hard, and the kid sitting next door to him, he barely learns. The kid daydreams half the time. Comes before a test, he reads over the material, he aces the test, he gets 100. Where's the Yigaitim Matzasa? What does this mean? So the answer is very simple. The question is how you define success. And we do not define success by 100 or 70, or by a full bank account, or somebody who can't pay his bills. We define success as having fulfilled your mission on earth. So a person who fulfilled their destiny, that's a successful person. You came here with a mission, you came here with a purpose. They tell a story that this fellow was in the old days in New York, they had the streetcars. You know, the streetcars that were attached to the wire on top?
The cable.
The cables. So the streetcar usually would go one direction, back and forth. See, it was a streetcar. He was on a street that there wasn't too much traffic. Drove up a whole day, back and forth, whatever he made at the end of the day, 57 cents. I don't know, whatever came in. And the next guy said, the next streetcar, he was on a busy street. This guy brought in $10. You know, in those days it cost a penny to go on. And he's very upset. His friend is so successful, and he's on the loser line. It's not working for him. So he went and unattached the car from the cables. He reattached himself to the other cables, moved his car into the next track, and that day he came home, and instead of 57 cents, he brought over $10 in. He was summarily fired on the spot. He said, "Why'd you fire me? Yesterday I brought in a small amount of money, and today I brought in so much money. I should get a reward for what I did." He said, "Because you needed to stay in your track. You went in somebody else's track." That's that success means that you do the best you could do. We all came here with a mission. The Abish to put us on a track. Try to go into somebody else's track is not going to make you any more successful. Even if on the surface it looks like more success. So if you want to be successful in life, what do you have to look for? You have to look for fulfilling your destiny. The Eibishter promises that nobody gets a job which is beyond the calling of what they're capable of. Nobody gets such a job. Hashem does not have expectations that are unreasonable, as it says, God does not come with impossible demands. So if the Eibishter, if the Creator makes a demand of you, what must we say?
It's possible.
It's possible. Person said, but it's so hard. Of course. But did you think the possibilities were going to be easy? Because along with that mission of achieving this, the Eibishter also gave us wherewithal. And God created nothing which was superfluous. So every ounce of strength that you got is what you need. And therefore, if you spend all your wherewithal and you marshal every effort, every ounce of it, you'll be successful. It has to be. It has to be so. Maybe you will not understand what success is. It will be matzasa. It will be beyond what you could have imagined. Sometimes people find out decades later something they did actually was successful. You never knew. It doesn't say you'll know about the success. It says you'll be successful. So a person will say, "Well, I don't feel my connection to the Tzadik. You know, the Tzadik was here. I still love him, but I don't feel it. I don't feel my life being changed." So what's the answer? The Torah truism is that the Tzadik is Yatem B'Chayoye. The Tzadik is here. Even more so, what's the answer? The answer is it's available. That if the Eibishter knows you need a Rebbe, it's available. The fervor is available. The passion is available. The faith is available. It's all there. So how am I getting it? Work at it. It's work at it. A person will say, but it's much harder now. It's much harder. When is so that I'm a nefesh guy? A nefesh. So a nefesh. Okay, that made sense. He told me stories about ruach. I'm not a ruach person. I don't relate to spirits. Maybe. But if the Eibishter put us in this situation, it must be that we're capable. And therefore, we believe with perfect faith that there must be this notion, an idea, that it is still possible to be a chassid, and it's still possible to get the empowerment, it's still possible to receive the inspiration. In fact, it's even in some way easier, it's more available, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easier to get. That will require tremendous effort in achana rabbah. So if a person primes himself and prepares himself and attaches himself to the spirit of the Rebbe, how is that done? So that says that hiskashtos comes through learning the Torah, through following the instructions, and through fraternizing, so to speak, with those who are chassidim. So if a person connects himself to the community of Chassidim, and a person does the instructions that the Rebbe gave, and a person studies the Rebbe's Torah and steeps himself in that Torah, it necessarily will have to light his candle and fire up his soul. And that's the lingering effect of the neshama. Now there's a whole business here with planting seeds in the orchard that continue to grow, but we're unfortunately out of time. And that's another level, another detail in how the tzaddik plants seeds, planted past tense seeds. Those seeds continue to grow. Those seeds then bear fruit. The fruit has new seeds, and that sets a process, in theory, ad infinitum in place. Something that a continually perpetuating legacy, and in that sense, in that perpetuated legacy, the tzaddik continues to live and impact the world even more so than during his lifetime. At any rate, with this, we shall conclude.